Montego Bay, Jamaica's second largest city, is the starting point for tourists from all over the world. This Caribbean paradise draws everyone under its spell. Here, it's summertime throughout the year. These deeply spiritual people are unashamedly friendly and seem to live their lives at reggae pace. Under English colonial rule, Jamaica continued to laze under the heat of the Caribbean sun, and during its precarious association with piracy, did not develop commercially. Not until the serious cultivation of sugar was any real progress made. Today, there are still many reminders of the time when the plantation slaves were forced to work in appalling conditions, and those who tried to escape were soon recaptured. At the end of the 18th century, Montego Bay was one of the most important sugar harbours on the island. The slaves who worked on the sugarcane plantations had been ruthlessly separated from their normal cultural existence and therefore sought solace in Christianity. The lively city centre is a mixture of both old and new. Modern concrete houses are next to simple wooden huts. Congested streets with numerous small shops and street traders. But only a few historic buildings remain from the founding years of the 18th century. With the decline in sugar prices, the economy took a downward spiral. Not until the beginning of the 20th century did the cultivation and export of bananas bring a temporary upturn to the island's economy. Hollywood celebrities were attracted to the island. Thus, Jamaica became famous throughout the world. Leaving the town and passing by its pleasant suburbs, we drive along the coast in an easterly direction. We soon arrive at Rose Hall Great House. In Jamaica, the British colonial country seats are called Great House. That means mansion. Between 1770 and 1780, John Palmer had this imposing construction built on a hill. At the end of the 1960s, it was renovated at great expense. His cruel wife Annie, also known as the White Witch, murdered her husband as well as several slaves. Since then, rumour has it that frequently her ghostly form is seen wandering around the house. About 1,000 years ago, the island's original inhabitants named it Jamaica, land of woods and water. Here, Caribbean dreams come true. The path leads further along the coast. Near Falmouth, a small river flows into the sea. Here there's a special feature, Martha Brae River rafting. Simple rafts are prepared here and then transported upriver to their departure point. Bamboo canes are crudely bound together with wire to make a raft. The leisurely jungle adventure on the calm river can begin, and it's an excellent way to explore this tropical paradise. At the front of the narrow, swaying raft stands the captain, who skillfully steers with a long bamboo rod. A tranquil river landscape passes by. Seductively, the dense tropical rainforest shows off all its spectacular colours. And after about 5 kilometers, we come to the end of the journey. This romantic experience has reached its conclusion and will certainly remain in the memory for many years to come. Here on the north coast, Christopher Columbus landed in 1502 during his 4th journey to the New World. Close by, the Spanish were defeated by the British in a bloody battle for sovereign control of Jamaica. With this self-built canoe, 2 sailors managed to reach the town of Hispaniola, 160 kilometers away. After a short while, we reached the Green Grotto Cave, a system of caverns. Many years ago, the last survivors of the Arawak Indians, of whom there were originally more than 100,000, returned here. More than 10 kilometers of pathways lie 40 meters below the Earth's surface. Various fascinating formations of stalactites and stalagmites are reminiscent of animals and strange forms. This entry from the logbook of Christopher Columbus indicates his love for the island. It reads, "It is the most beautiful that my eyes have ever seen." Dunn's River Falls is the name of a waterfall near to Ochos Rios. This main tourist attraction is one of the island's most well-known natural features. In swimming costumes, more than 1 million visitors a year attempt to climb through the spraying torrents of water, whilst linking hands in a human chain, led by an experienced guide. In foaming cascades, Dunn's River plunges 200 metres down toward the sea over step-shaped limestone blocks across an overgrown landscape of ferns and plants. Into Ochos Rios Bay flow not 8, as the Spanish name leads us to believe, but 3 rivers into the sea. About 8,000 people live here, in Ochi, as the place is lovingly called by the local inhabitants and holidaymakers, and thousands of visitors travel here each day by cruise ship that anchor here for just a few hours. On this promontory, 2 massive hotels tower into the sky. During a visit to the market, there's still a strong atmosphere of the past. Here, goods are offered, bargained and sold. Nothing has changed. Indeed, the sweet juice of the sugarcane is still being squeezed out by hand and is much preferred to most modern soft drinks. The inhabitants of this former fishing village are particularly proud of the turquoise-coloured Big Ben. Through metre-high ferns, the winding road ascends the hill in front of the town. The Coyaba River Garden is located here, an oasis of relaxation and tranquility. This well-tended botanical garden is open to the public. In the language of the Arawak Indians, Coyaba means paradise, land of joy and eternal song. During a guided walk through the luxurious tropical vegetation, one can discover the names of plants, take in their fragrance, observe colourful fish, and generally enjoy life under the sun. The ancient trees and their many branches give the impression of providing a convenient roof of leaves for the plants and animals that live here. A small museum in the style of a Mexican hacienda provides a glimpse into the world of the island's original inhabitants, into the art, culture and way of life of the Arawak. Harmony Hall is the name of the immaculate manor house, located on a turn-of-the-century plantation. The boundless wealth of the white masters is a thing of the past. Today, the villa contains a handicraft centre and also a gallery for the island's indigenous artists, a worthy setting for these wonderful works of art. This Victorian building is a reminder of English colonial rule. James Bond Beach is the name of the former winter retreat of the English author Ian Fleming, who created British secret agent James Bond. The famous author wrote most of his 14 007 novels on the small island of Golden Eye. Of these, 5 were set in Jamaica. Now the journey proceeds in a southerly direction, into the island's hilly interior.
Welcome to Sun Valley Plantation.
The next stop, a visit to the Sun Valley Plantation. Here, Nolly and Lorna Binns continue a tradition that dates back 250 years.
Vasco da Gama brought some seedlings from Africa in 1499 to the Caribbean and Atlantic region, and it has a protective skin here. It seals the coconut off.
Lorna explains that in 1499, Vasco da Gama introduced the African coconut palm to Jamaica. Both indigenous and imported plants flourish in the fertile soil and sun-kissed climate. In addition to bananas, citrus fruits, papayas, melons and apples, various spices are also cultivated here. The blossoms on the banana trees provide a splendid array of colour, and yet again promise a good harvest. The plantation owner shows us how vanilla blossoms are pollinated by hand.
You have the stigma and the stamen over here. So you lift this little cap, press this down right here, and the pollen comes off right there. Right?
This is both
That's
delightful and interesting.
away.
Naturally, sugarcane is also planted here. Lorna happily leads us through her empire. A kaleidoscope of colour and enchanting aromas greet the senses. Expansive fields of coconut palms dominate the plantation. It's difficult to believe that it was man who originally planted these palms, which blend so harmoniously with this wonderful setting. Originally, trees covered most of the island, but today only about 20% of the original woodland remains. We return to the coast. The tropical island paradise reveals itself from its most beautiful side, the turquoise blue sea and palms which bend in the warm breeze. Jamaica is the third largest island in the Caribbean and forms part of the large Antilles. On Harry Belafonte's Island in the Sun, an authentic holiday of a lifetime is guaranteed. Towards Port Antonio, we visit the overgrown but very romantically located Somerset Falls. The footpath which leads to this wonderful display of nature goes through an evergreen rainforest. The Daniels River rushes towards the sea in diverse cascades through a multicolored garden landscape. Several natural pools tempt the visitor to a refreshing bathe. From here, it's not far to the town which once owed its existence to the banana trade. Port Antonio. A boulevard of palms greet the visitor and leads to the center of this colorful place, which has seen better times. In front of the courthouse, a small bright red clock tower decorates the square. Harbour Street, the houses indicate the prosperity of the banana traders who exported their goods to North America in the second half of the 19th century. The appearance of these fine buildings make it easy to forget the arduous work of the men who loaded the heavy cargo of fruit onto the ships. On a small hill near to the harbour, the Christ Church was built. Here the town's much exploited people celebrated Sunday service. The well-tended red brick church has witnessed many events. The first Spanish invaders, attack by former slaves, and British colonial rule. From a hill above the town, there is a good view of Double Bay and the privately owned Navy Island. The Bonneview Hotel restaurant is augmented by a splendid view and offers a comprehensive and tasty menu. The Blue Lagoon owes its fame to a motion picture. Yet today, several of the super rich have built their villas here. Tourists are no longer welcome. Navy Island is the former residence of Hollywood legend Errol Flynn. In 1974, he fell in love with the country and bought this small island. He built luxurious bungalows for his guests, and stories abound of his wild parties and erotic adventures even today. The wonderful white sandy beaches, the calm sea, and the world-famous reggae music have made this paradise in the Caribbean famous throughout the world. Under the rule of its colonial masters and slave traders until well into the 19th century, it was not until the 6th of August 1962 that this proud island gained its independence. Almost every village has a church. Christianity is the main religion of the local population, which consists of the descendants of slaves from America, often mixed with European and Asian blood. Once again, we recall the worldwide hit of the Jamaican-born singer Harry Belafonte, "Oh Island in the Sun." He knew exactly which island he was singing about. At the roadside, goats look at us curiously. They don't appear to be able to understand why we are so fascinated by the undulating, evergreen, tropical landscape which they take for granted. Above, the rainforest with its towering treetops and enormous ferns. The narrow and winding road leads us higher and higher into the mist-covered mountains. The Blue Mountains, breathtaking primeval nature with a hint of adventure. Wild, fissured mountains whose highest peak reaches more than 2,000 meters. Fragrant tropical plants and one of the best coffee varieties in the world are a pleasure to behold. The black gold of the Blue Mountains enjoys a legendary reputation among gourmets. It's mainly exported to Japan, as the prices it demands in Europe and North America are too high. Cool mountain mists, just enough rainfall, and volcanic soil unite to create the exceptional aroma of this world-famous coffee. When slavery was abolished, many of the newly freed slaves left the sugarcane plantations and started to grow coffee in the mountains. With its many curves, the narrow road leads further into the hills, past several picturesque waterfalls. The cool and humid passat winds are mainly responsible for the veil of mist which caresses the woodland valleys. Soon we reach Newcastle. The road crosses the parade ground of the military barracks, which was erected here by the British. The traditions of garrison life are documented everywhere. Occasionally, the street is closed for military purposes. On the way down into the valley, we visit Sangster's Old Jamaica, one of the country's oldest established rum factories. Rum, the sugar water of the Caribbean, has a tradition which is closely linked to the cultivation of sugarcane. The basic ingredients for the creation of Jamaica's national drink is molasses, sugar and yeast, which are fermented for up to 12 days and then distilled repeatedly, the most successful formula being a closely guarded secret. Port Royal is situated on a small strip of land at the entrance to the natural harbour basin of Kingston. At the farthest-most point, the mighty Fort Charles was constructed here because of its strategic position. It's one of the most beautiful and best-kept fortifications on the island. Black cannon barrels point threateningly out of the fortification's many turrets. The great earthquake of 1907 almost completely destroyed Giddy House, now a lopsided relic in the sand. It was once a military storehouse. British Royal Navy defences protected the coastline and harbour entrance during the Second World War. In front of the small house in which Admiral Horatio Nelson once resided, there is a lonely gravestone. Kingston is the capital of Jamaica. It's the island's political, economic and cultural centre. This former pirate stronghold is a lively mixture of joie de vivre and reggae music. In the centre of the town is the Ward Theatre, a theatre of some note, turquoise and generously decorated in white stucco. Opposite, the splendid Kingston Parish Church, which dates back to the late 17th century. Among the buildings that stem from colonial times, life continues at a steady tempo. More than 700,000 people live here, and everywhere the sands of time gradually take their toll. Michael Manley was the country's main reformer. His socialism with a human face has altered the lives of the Jamaican people. In the centre of the hectic hustle and bustle of the capital is the splendid Devon House, built in Georgian style and surrounded by a green island of tranquility. An extensive park with fountain and king palms proudly surrounds this splendid town villa. Brooding heat engulfs the city, whose daily life seems well attuned to the continuous rhythm of reggae.
Now check out the wicked inspiration vibes.
Maybe this explains the unbroken popularity of the king of reggae, Bob Marley, who died in 1981 and has a museum dedicated to him.
To the hot scene.
After the Spaniards had given up their first colonial capital, Sevilla la Nueva, in 1534, they founded Spanish Town, the town on the level. The town's historic centre is a large square, framed by remnants of a magnificent past. Further to the west, the path leads to a hilly coastal resort. Lover's Leap is the name of a rocky outcrop which contains a lighthouse. Legend has it that a pair of amorous slaves jumped from the cliff top to prevent their owner from separating them. Reflectively, visitors to this rocky coastline look down the sheer drop to the memorials of a great love which led to death. Treasure Beach is the name of a remote bathing resort which contains several medium-sized hotels, the ideal retreat for those who want to enjoy water, landscape and peace. The Treasure is located between Kingston and Negril. Today, few of the local people earn their living as fishermen. Instead, they have gradually adapted to the needs of the island's flourishing tourist industry. Picturesque and extensive palm beaches are ideal for leisurely walks. The fine, Dark yellow sand shines in the sunlight, lapped by the gentle surf. With a population of around 4,000, Black River is the regional capital of St. Elizabeth, an important harbour town on the western side of the south coast. Elegant and noble houses indicate the town's former prosperity. At the turn of the century, this town was a busy trading centre for blue wood, from which a dye is extracted to colour pelts and leather. Today, the town centre is neglected and run down, but life continues at a calm and carefree pace. In the fishing harbour, the boats of the crab fishermen, who earn a modest living from these tasty crustaceans. Close by in the small harbour, at the mouth of the Black River, tourist boats are being prepared for the day's outing. The Black River Safari can begin. Stretching for 70 kilometres, the Black River is Jamaica's longest river, and at one time was navigable for 40 kilometres. The water appears to be black due to the darkness of the riverbed. Several rivers emanate from the Black River and flow underground to reappear later in the light of day. Herons and other birds hide in the green of the riverside plants. The main feature that expectant visitors come to see is the alligator. Great Morass and Upper Morass are extensive swamplands that drain into the Black River. The armoured predators lie in wait in the water's many side channels. Protected since 1971, there are 35 specimens in this colony. On the main river, the tourist boats speed up and down at frenetic speed, almost like a chase scene from a James Bond movie. Next to his small boat, a fisherman dives into the water with a harpoon, a dangerous occupation. Finally, we reach the tiny straw huts of the fishermen, who lead a simple existence. From here, the Black River is no longer navigable by large boats. The boatmen know their favourites extremely well, and thankfully there is an alligator on call that allows itself to be photographed at close quarters. After a 90-minute adventure, the boat returns to the sanctuary of the harbour. Here the fishermen sell their fresh catches, caught in the region's treacherous waters. The fish are skillfully selected, considered, weighed, and the price agreed. Negril. This small resort on Jamaica's western tip has become one of the Caribbean's most popular holiday destinations. Fishermen still set out to sea in their tiny boats. The idyllic white beaches and numerous water sports assure success for the holiday of a lifetime. This Caribbean paradise has everyone under its spell. Not far away, there are secluded rocky bays where the courageous plummet into the sea from a rope and explorers snorkel in the crystal clear water. There are no limits to the excitement and adventure. Here, anything goes. One of the main attractions is the cliff jumping exploits of young men who throw themselves from high cliffs into the water below. But their bravery is usually only rewarded with applause. Many people who are curious sit on nearby rocks to observe how some of the self-styled macho men accept wagers for their dangerous leap into the depths. The West End is dominated by a large lighthouse, and from the top there is a magnificent panorama over sea and land. But now the time has finally come. The grand climax of every Jamaica holiday can begin, to experience the world-famous sunset from the terrace of Rick's Cafe. Well beforehand, a constant flow of tourists have made their pilgrimage here in order to ensure a good view. There's merriment and celebration until the sun slowly sinks down into the sea. Jamaica is one of the world's last paradises, an island of dreams, with tropical, primeval forests, fascinating mountains, exotic plants, white sandy beaches, a beaming sun, and scorching music.